What do you know? They've already shut off my mic. That's fantastic. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to Town Collingwood Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee agenda for Monday, May 6th, 2019. First, I would like to, today we acknowledge that the meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. We're thankful to share in the special spirit of this place, rich in energy of Mother Earth, our ancestors, and the love of all creation. Welcome everybody that's in the audience and streaming at home. First, I'd like to look for the adoption of the minutes, that the content of the Corporate Community Services Standing Committee agenda for May 6, 2019 be adopted as presented. Mayor Saunderson, Councillor Berman, all those in favor? Excellent. Business arising from the previous meeting. Councillor Comey.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. I know we brought this up at council, but since it'll be presented here, I was just wondering if we could please get a date for the Fisherfield staff report.
So when they come back, you're looking for the date that it'll commence on?
Thank you. No, that we will anticipate receiving it.
Receiving it.
Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. And since you were the mover and I was the seconder, that's a good thing to do.
Thank you.
Right, declarations of pecuniary interest. Councillor McLeod.
Mine is not pecuniary necessarily, but would like it known that when we make the decision regarding the curling club coming up on number 7.3, I will still be taking part in the discussion, but want it known that I am a member of the club.
Thank you very much for being so open. It is a nice change to see the openness around the table and telling the truth. I appreciate that very much. Is there anything else? None. Okay. Reports of deputations. We kind of have a deputation, but we're going to move it after when we accept the minutes of the Trails Committee. So, reports and minutes for the committee. 6.1, Collingwood Downtown BIA Board Management Minutes, April 11th. 6.2, the Museum Advisory Committee, April 18th. And Trails Advisory Committee, April 11th. Any questions or comments for any of those? No? Okay, certainly.
Thank you. I was wondering, I noticed, and this is referring to the Trails Committee minutes.
Yes.
It references on, so page 15 of 45 in our package. Member Justin Jones provided the committee with a presentation he created with the theme, How Collingwood Could Become Bike Town, Ontario. And I was wondering if we could make the request for Justin to provide that presentation to this committee.
If the committee, yes, we could. And in the meantime, if you'd like to get a copy of it, maybe before that he presents it, then we can formulate some questions and anything. Perfect.
Fabulous.
Fantastic. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, can I get a mover and seconder to adopt those? Moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Councillor McLeod. All those in favor? Excellent. So, kind of moving backwards but sideways, Mr. Knowles, would you like to come up and give your presentation in regards to the trails, please, and thank you.
Okay, just wait for it to show up there on the screen. In the meantime, I'll say thank you very much for the invite and a quick introduction. Mayor Saunderson, councillors, members of the public. I'll just do a very quick review of some of the things that have happened in trails over the last year. A quick review of what might be happening in 2019.
Thank you, sir.
And then I'd like to spend a little bit of time just talking about an issue that we see coming at us. It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue every day. So if we could go to the first slide very quickly. You can see from that just the yellow circles, just the areas where we did some work this year. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. Next one, please. Some of the work was done. We've got the volunteers building boardwalk again. We repurposed some of the wood from the old boardwalk that was taken down in Harbourview Park and built it out in the west end of town. At the Hen and Chickens Boardwalk, we did an extension there. We raised the level of the bridge a little bit, at least a section of it, so we could get out of the water, and extended the transition ramp down there onto the trail. Keep that picture in mind, because I'm going to show you another one now, what it looks like today, unfortunately. Same thing at Sunset Point Park. Did some raising of the trail there because of the water level rising in the lake. And the big addition, I guess, to the network this year was the Taylor Creek Trail. Developer built, running the whole length of Taylor Creek, and then one additional interpretive sign that was put up last year for Crohn's Brickyard. Okay, next one. Counter locations, just to let people know, we do have counters out on the trail. I won't spend any time on them. We have six of them out there. They're marked with the stars. And if you go to the next couple of slides, just see some of the data that we have available to us. And you can see, if I use the green one as an example, which is the train trail just north of Hume Street, you're looking at anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 counts a month go by that particular location. So we've got data for a lot of these counters. And we keep them there usually for about 2 years, so that we've got a bit of a running history, and then we tend to move them around to other locations on the trails. I won't spend any time with this one, but the one thing I will notice, it's from 2017 to 2018. One of the trails that obviously is on there is the Harborview Trail, and because of the fire there on the boardwalk, it's probably the only trail we've got where the numbers have actually gone down year over year, because obviously it's very difficult to walk on that boardwalk these days. Those are the locations that we're looking at for 2019. The one thing I point out is you'll see that 2 of those locations are very similar to the ones that we just did in 2018. So the water continues to be an issue for us. And those are the top 5 priorities, I guess, kind of in order. The river trail widening was one that we'd hoped to do last year. It didn't quite get done last year. It's under construction now. The Hen and Chickens Boardwalk extension, the Sunset Point Park Trail repair, and then of course the Wasaga Bay Trail, which is the sidewalk on the north side of 26, which will be adding a fairly good trail for us there. The one thing I would highlight is all of these particular projects are dealing with existing trails. There's nothing in those first 4 that add anything to the trail network. So we're getting to the point now where we need to be refurbishing, we need to be upgrading some of the trails that we have. The last couple of things down there, winter grooming, the pilot project was done this year. I understand it was quite successful. All the feedback from the public has been positive. So hopefully we can continue with that next year and expand it hopefully. There's a new trail map coming out this year, which is just in print right now. I was kind of hoping to have copies for everybody tonight, but that wasn't possible. And we're trying to get a digital version of the map so that people can go on the website with their cell phones and stuff and home in on certain locations and help with that. And then of course the cycling plan is coming hopefully this year. So here's what I'd like to really get into, which is, the Collingwood Trails, a town jewel. I think everybody knows that that's the case. We've worked very hard over the years as a town, as a community, to build this network, and it attracts people from out of town, obviously, and a lot of people in town use this network as well. I won't spend any time at this, but a lot of surveys will tell you the most popular activities for people are cycling and walking. Where the heck do you do that? Well, you do that on trails and on our road network. So, that's pretty straightforward. Next one. And just going down to the bottom as part of the Parks and Rec master plan, the last statement there, survey respondents indicate high usage of trails in Collingwood, with 75% of respondents using the trails once a week or more. This usage was further emphasized at stakeholder events and often highlighted as the most important recreational asset in Collingwood. So with that in mind, let's move to the next one. Very quick review there of the history of the trails. We've got 62 kilometers, that's how it's grown over the years. You'll notice as the graph kind of tapers off at the top there, we're not adding much more network to the trails network now. We're back into more trying to repair and upgrade. That just shows you how we've been building over the last few years, big years back in the 2005 era, not so much now. average trail age, which is the one that's the biggest concern for us at the moment. You can see how it's going there. It's going up steadily every year. And I would highlight that those are 5-year increments, except for the last one, which is only a 3-year increment. And if I put 2020 there, you'd see that the 15.1 years became basically 17 years. So every year, the network just gets a year older. And I won't spend any time on this one, but the ones that are in question are some of the major spines of our network. Georgian Trail, Harborview Trail, Train Trail. These are not the little hookups, these are the big guys. And these are the ones that have been around for quite some time. So that's the standard. Using my bicycle as a measuring stick there, that's sort of what the trail should look like. My bike is 6 feet long. The trail's supposed to be 10 feet wide. Those are examples of some of the ones that meet that standard without a problem. One of our issues, trail narrowing. Nature has this way, and the grass seems to want to keep taking over. So you can see examples of the trail there, the Black Ash Trail, probably 6 feet wide. High Street Trail, maybe 5, and the Cranberry Inn Vacation Inn Trail combination, probably only about 4 feet wide. So the trails are narrowing noticeably. Next issue, disappearing stone dust. And it's tough to see from those pictures, but on the one on the left there, the train trail, you can see the white there at the bottom of the picture, and up by my bicycle, you can see it's sort of whitish as well. In the middle, not so much. And that's basically dirt. On a dry day, not a problem. When it rains, gets a little messy and gets a little slick. So that's another issue that we are dealing with, is the stone dust is starting to disappear on us. And the rising lake waters. There's the Nottawasaga Bay Trail. After the water got to it last summer, it basically doesn't exist for about 100 meters. The Sunset Point Trail, if you remember that nice picture that I showed earlier of the work that we did there, unfortunately it was not enough. And the water got in around the end of those concrete barricades, and the trail got washed away back there at the corner where it goes around the bend. And if you remember that nice picture of that transition boardwalk running down into the trail there, flush to grade, not so much now. The water came in, heavy winds, wave action has undermined that. You can see on the picture on the right, the trail is maybe 3 inches above the level of the water on a calm day. On a windy day from the north, it's about 3 inches under the water. So there's a very long component of that particular trail that is essentially not usable part of the time on a windy day. And then the pièce de résistance here, unfortunately, sometime during the month of March, when the winds were high or the ice was going out, the bridge went out with it, and we have yet to find it. We've been looking for it, but it has totally vanished. The 2 sections that are there, they're still standing. Those were the ones that we worked on last year, but unfortunately, the rest of it disappeared on us. So if you go back to the priorities that we had, and just showing quickly the water levels there. The blue is what it's been this year so far. The red is what it was last year through the year, and you can see it's up again. So we are, we're in some difficulty right now, and we are really concerned that the town jewel is getting a little tarnished at the moment. And and this is just a guess on my part, but to just go out and replace the bridge and bring all those trails that are currently in harm's way, I guess, because of the water levels, with our current capital, the current capital allocation for trails, that's probably 2 to 3 years worth of work. So the the Hen and Chickens Trail, the boardwalk out there is going to be inaccessible to tourists and residents alike, potentially for quite some time, unless we can do a few things out there. So that's kind of the message at this point in time, I guess, that we are concerned that we need to get more work done on the trails in, I'll say, major work. The small stuff we take care of, the big stuff is tough to do, and that's basically the pitch at this particular point in time. So if there are any other questions, obviously I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Thank you very much. You were concerned that you were going to go over and you really didn't, so thanks for getting that into the 10 minutes.
I can talk fast when I
Really appreciate it. Any questions or comments in regards to a great story, but a little bit of the water washing out?
Yes.
There's on.
Thank you, Chair, through you to Mr. Knowles and to the members of the committee that are here today. Thank you very much for your great work. We do have a Harbour View West boardwork project on the agenda, and that my understanding and speaking with Director Culver is there may be some financial impacts that are shifting, and I don't know if there is if this would be the appropriate time or now to wait for this item to come up when we might talk about the financial implications of the insurance kicking in for the boardwalk and other opportunities when we might be able to look at possible ways to replace the bridge.
We would welcome that quite clearly, and I'm sure that a lot of people who visit the town would welcome that too.
We'll talk about it when it
We'll
comes
talk
up.
about it on that.
But it's a good thing. You can
There's
put
an opportunity.
a smile.
Yeah?
Put a smile on your face.
Yes, I would do
There.
that.
I just didn't want you to leave in angst.
Yeah.
And we can have this discussion later on because it is on the agenda.
Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Knowles. Thank you so much for the hard work that you do. I am a daily user of the trails, and I so appreciate them. I think I left 30 pounds out there when I started running. I had a conversation with Mr. Christie a few months ago wherein we discussed the possibility of a trail heading out to Blue Mountains.
Yes.
And that there were some difficulties regarding landowners and negotiations that were taking place with them. Can you provide an update on any of those conversations?
Tough to really provide an update for that. We have to finalize a route, and I guess the update that I can provide is there is a request in with the NBCA because any route that we take would involve crossing Silver Creek. And as soon as you get involved with Silver Creek, obviously you have to involve the NBCA. So we have asked them for a, what's it called, a pre-consult, I think is the official terminology, where they would hopefully provide us with a recommended route where you might want to cross Silver Creek. And until we really have that, it's kind of difficult to go out and talk to landowners with any kind of a proposal because you kind of need to have a very specific route that you'd like to do so you can ask them for something specific as opposed to just saying we'd like to get across your property somehow.
Thank you. I have another
Yes.
question through you, Mr. Chair. Your statistics said between 8,000 and 10,000 people use the trail south of the water tower. Is that 8,000 to 10,000 a week or 8,000 to 10,000 a month?
A month.
A month, okay. And I also saw a picture of a trail that you named the Secret Trail.
Oh, yes.
Can I know where that is?
It's a secret. No, it's just a connection out to the Sunset Point Park. You go
Oh.
on the north side of Huron Street, and as you wind through the trees there and you get to Sunset Point Park, it's just affectionately called the Secret Trail.
Okay, I've been using it daily and didn't know it was a secret even to me. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? Director Culver?
Thank you, Chair. I think it'd be good to clarify that no negotiations have actually begun with any landowners regarding the Trail of Blue Mountain. I didn't want anyone to think that people are being spoken to. We're still in the phase of work where we're trying to figure out what the right approach is. And as Murray mentioned, there's some technical work to do, but no landowners have been approached for discussion on that matter yet.
Thank you.
Well, if I could just bring a comment, it was nice to see through the community, I guess some local churches had reached out to the town and asked what they could do. And I noticed that yesterday that there was a few, probably 20, 30 people that were out there taking apart some of the old boardwalk and they put it up on their Facebook post.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so,
Oh, good.
which is kind of exciting to see the town. So it just shows that people are willing, not only that sit on the committee to do all this great work, but people in the community are also willing to help. So I'm sure that we can get more people out to do that.
And one of the churches last year, when we were recovering some of the lumber from that isolated section of the Harborview
Yes.
boardwalk, there was a group from the church that took the rest away and dealt with that as well. So yes, they have been active in helping us.
All right, that's amazing. Anything else? So I'm actually gonna take a cue from our fantastic mayor, and I'm gonna ask if we can jump ahead to get Director Culver to speak about 7.4. Does anyone from the committee have any objections to that? Not that I don't want these people to sit through some stirring motions, but I would think that you would wanna get home to watch the Leafs play hockey tonight, or are they, no? Oh, sorry, I get mixed up, I'm a Bruins fan, my bad. Director Culver?
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, you know what, sorry, I'll read it out just so we can catch everybody along at home in case they're following along. PRC 2019-11 Harborview West Boardwalk Project, recommending that the Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee support and refer the following staff report to the next regular meeting of council. The staff report PRC 2019-11 be received and the council approve a blended project to replace the burn section of Harborview Boardwalk system along with the boardwalk extension into the West Harbour and the other replacements in that system suffering from wear and tear, utilizing capital project funds approved in the 2019 budget, donations and insurance funding. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. So everyone's aware of the burn portion of the boardwalk, about 300 feet, and staff entered a capital budget request this year with the intent that that boardwalk would be replaced regardless. And after budget was approved, our insurance company came back and said that they would cover the 300 feet of burned boardwalk, which leaves us with an opportunity to address the burn section, but also other issues that were identified in the engineering assessment that was done on the boardwalk to ensure that the lifespan of the boardwalk is increased and improved. Additionally, and shortly after insurance told us that they were willing to step up, a donor came forward to offer to help us accomplish a piece of the waterfront master plan. There's an extension into the Western Harbour that people are probably familiar with that is also at the end of its lifespan, but the waterfront master plan actually had some upgrades implicated as well. So the donor is offering $100,000 to be matched by town monies to help make that extension happen as well. So all in all, by the time we take into account insurance money, donor money, and the budget, we think there would be a net savings to the town on that bundled project. Essentially, we'd be creating an efficiency where there would be some net savings to the overall budget.
That's it.
I think so.
Right. That's good. Anyone from the public wish to come up and ask any questions or comments in regards to that? Seeing none. Anyone from the committee? Councillor Comey.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. So I'll break my questions into two parts. First, through you to Director Culver. So just to confirm, the insurance has agreed to pay for the burn section of the boardwalk?
Through you, Chair, yeah, the boardwalk will be repaired exactly this part that was burned by the fire.
The burn part, okay. So I'd like to make the request, please, that once that work's completed, that back to committee comes some before and after pictures of the work completed.
I'm sorry, just so I understand it, you'd like pictures before and after?
Yeah, so
Oh, sure.
just to come back to, circle back to committee and show us some pictures of the work completed, so that that's sort of done. And then, if I may, Chair,
Yeah, for
continue. So just to clarify, Director Culver, are the anonymous donor, are these funds matching or makeup?
Through you, Chair, the donor made a request that that funds, that his $100,000 would be combined with up to $50,000 of town money. This donor simply, through all of the projects that he's funded over the years, which now we're into significant hundreds of thousands of dollars, he's always ever asked that the town participate. It's a bit of a code for him, so that's what he's requested this time as well.
So the donor has assured the town that they'll contribute $100,000 and is asking the town to contribute $50,000.
Yeah, but by the time we bundle all of the projects, then essentially that requirement is completed anyway.
I'm sorry, I don't follow.
So the town is, sorry, through you, Chair.
Yes.
The town had a budget of $150,000.
Mhm.
The repairs, plus additional monies added to the donor's money to do the extension, which we are estimating to be about $100,000 to $125,000. We will be able to match that through the repairs and the additional monies needed to complete the extension. We will be able to accomplish our matching.
So if I may, to Councillor Comey, so what we would be able to do is we wouldn't have to put an extra 50 in, we would already be doing that, so we would fulfill the donor's obligation of the town spending money on the trail system.
With the sum total of the total cost of this project is $150,000, that's what we're sure of?
Well, again, there's design work to be done.
Yeah.
There's engineering to be done, so I don't have a full project, but our estimate based on last year's project or the previous project we've done is about $150,000.
Yeah, because what we're doing, if I can, is we're taking what we've done before and just using it as an example, as per the length and width of the boardwalk. That was
Correct.
perfect. Okay, so you're gonna be bringing back some harder numbers when it comes, but right now, just kind of a
Correct. We're asking for a budget envelope to approach the project.
perfect. Councillor Comey?
Okay.
No, you've got one more question. Get it out. I can see it. I can see it. I would rather it be asked now than later, so.
Yeah, well, what I struggle with is we set aside funding
Yes.
to repair a project.
Yes.
We no longer need that funding for the insurance company, the money has come through, and now we have an additional ask. And it sounds like a unique opportunity, and I'll just
Yes.
wrestle with whether this is the appropriate time for that.
Okay, so
But in terms of the math, I'll settle with
Awesome.
the numbers presented. Thank you, Chair.
no, you're welcome. Any other? Councillor McLeod?
This is gonna sound a little bit familiar because I'm struggling as well. It seems to me as though, having a look at this staff report, as though it ought actually to be two staff reports, because we have the insurance issue and then we have the donation and the wish list issue. And those, to me, seem to be two separate notions. And through you, Mr. Chair, am I correct on that, Mr. Culver?
So through you, Chair, yeah, they're two separate issues. The goal here and the opportunity here was to bundle all of these into one project. So essentially reach out to a single contractor, mobilize a contractor on site to deal with the repair, the upgrades that were indicated through the engineering report, and the extension into the Western Harbor. So that's sort of was the goal of the report in bundling everything together. But I recognize that the Western Harbor extension was not on anybody's radar. It's really a matter of opportunity.
So through
Yes,
you,
for sure.
Mr. Chair, so ballpark, how much are we saving by doing two things at once?
My ballpark estimate, based on the last boardwalk that we completed, is about a $50,000 savings against the current capital budget.
So, pardon me if my math is incorrect, so we're spending $150,000 of the insurance company's money.
We don't, sorry to interrupt, but we don't know how much that is. There's no cap on that, but it is specific to the burn section.
So the insurance company is going to replace the burn section regardless of how many dollars that is.
Correct.
And we received the offer of $100,000 from a person.
Correct.
And we want to top that up with the $150,000 that was approved in the budget in case the insurance money didn't come through.
Correct. I'm asking to access the money that was intended to cover the burn section in order to match the donor's money to affect the boardwalk extension into the Western Harbor and the additional upgraded repairs that indicated in the engineering report. That's what I'm asking for. I don't have specifics at this time because without authority to go forward, we weren't going to engage engineers, but that's sort of the estimate at this moment.
And so at this point, it's not 150 of town money that we're thinking that we were required to spend to make this happen. It would be only 100 that we would be thinking of spending.
Based on my preliminary estimates, yes.
Okay, thank you. And do we think that this will happen this year? Will I be running on that trail will I be running to Canadian Tire by September?
Once we have approval, we'll move immediately to a procurement process.
Okay, thank you. I think those are my questions.
Teo and Min?
Thank you, Chair. I think what staff is recommending here is that we did not anticipate that the insurance would necessarily cover the bond section. Now that that is clear, so we did set aside some money in the 2019 budget to compensate for any lack of insurance money. So now that the insurance is going to cover that bond section, what we're recommending is that we be allowed to have access to that money for another project, the details of which are not known at this stage in terms of actual costs. So we're accessing insurance money for the bond section. The money allocated in the budget for the bond section is being reallocated, and staff is asking for permission from council to access that fund to fund this project. And the details of which is not formed yet.
Which will, if in clarity, will give us access to a $100,000 donation.
That's correct.
So we've set aside money in the budget already. The insurance company has come through to do something very fantastic, but the money is there. If we use it for another project, we can access an extra $100,000 of funding that doesn't come from the taxpayer through a pure donation.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Clerk Almus, and not specific to this project, but to this type of thing, does the town have a policy in place for donations like this, anonymous or otherwise, that
If I could redirect to the treasurer?
absolutely?
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have a donation policy in place.
Okay, and it sorry,
Yep.
to merging, and it would cover things like conditions and up to amounts and the types of things that are in this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes.
Thank you.
Good question. Mayor Saunderson?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess really what I have is a request, because what we've heard today from the Trails Committee is that there's some areas of the trail, and one in particular, the Chicken and Hens Harbor Trail, which is really not workable or usable right now. And I guess when we come forward with the numbers that we know we are going to be looking to invest in this portion of trail, I'm wondering if we can get an idea at that time of the savings that we've achieved, or the possibility of the savings that we've achieved in order to move forward and looking at repairing this section where the bridge is washed out, because as long as that bridge isn't there, we can't use it. So what I was thinking when I heard Mr. Knoll's presentation was, if there are monies that are going to be not spent on the planned work, that if we can look at using those monies to fix that portion, and I don't know what a bridge would cost, but if we can first start off with getting an idea of what savings we may have realized, then we can move forward, if appropriate, to looking at whether we can invest those monies in fixing that portion of the trail. And I guess it begs a larger question too, based on Mr. Knoll's comments with the rising water levels. Is that going to be sufficient, or are we going to be dealing with the same problem again? So clearly, with any remediation we did, we would want to make sure that is secure and not going to get washed out again, to the extent that we can be assured of that. So my request is, when we get the final numbers, as requested by Councillor Coleman and Councillor McLeod on the work that's being contemplated in this report, we get a quantification of what, if any, surplus would be left over, and whether or not that surplus would be in the magnitude of allowing us to fix the bridge.
Wonderful. Councillor Culver? That would be...
Not Councillor Collins.
Or,
No.
you never know, buddy.
Through you, Chair. So what I would recommend, I think I understand what you're asking for, and what I'd recommend is that we take the Hen and Chicken Bridge and Trail, because there's actually more to it than the bridge. There's trail issues as well. And we add this as a separate project, or another project added for evaluation under this umbrella envelope of that we're looking to access. because what we would do is, that would allow us to move efficiently. We would move forward saying, okay, we need an engineering study that says, how are we gonna fix this so it's a permanent solution? How are we going to do the boardwalk and all the rest of it? It's one project broken into multiple pieces, and that would probably help us to move as fast as we can on all of it. Coming back with leftover money, et cetera, is gonna make it more, take longer.
Yeah, I'm good with
I
that.
think
If you're
it's the
coming
same.
back, if I understand it, and coming back with a total cost envelope for the 2 projects, or actually 3 projects, I guess. And then we can look at whether we have sufficient resources to do it at that point in time, I'm fine with that.
That's what I'd suggest. That way it's all on the table at the same time.
Yeah, no, that works for me.
I'm gonna guess by reading people's body language, that might not work for everybody, but I'm sure if you have any questions or comments in regards to that moving forward, just please direct them to the department head. And I do apologize for calling you counselor, you did call me your worship once, so we're even, 1 mistake each. All right, so seeing no other questions, I've already read the motion, can I get a mover and seconder for it?
Excuse me, Chair,
Yes.
just to clarify, are we asking for a deferral then, until we can have all the
No.
math on these? So we're making a motion to move ahead and give Director Culver access to this $150,000?
No.
So if we're taking the motion strictly, but Ms. Saunderson, would you like to bring clarity to your comments?
Yes, I guess what I was asking for, we're not approving the project at this point in time, certainly at least to the extent that it deals with the bridge. What we're asking, and what I understood Director Culver to be saying, was that in this report he would come back with essentially three separate estimates. One to fix the burn bridge, one for the new partition on the west end that has the donor, and then the third being what the cost would be to do the bridge. And then we can, at that point in time, address each specific aspect of the project. Because at this point in time, the bridge, it doesn't come under the cost envelope that we're discussing today. So what I would be hoping for is a scope of work and an estimate that then council could, the council could then approve.
So this would be an amendment?
Yes, it would be an amendment.
100%.
Yeah.
So obviously, Mayor Saunderson is going to move this. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Berman? So, Clerk Elmas? Just on the amendment, can I call for the vote? All those in favor? Excellent. So I guess we should read the amendment out.
Certainly through Chair Madigan to members of the committee, did you want to be specific that that was the only additional project that the Trails Committee raised that you wanted to be addressed? Was that bridge and the trail issues to the Hens and Chicken Islands, or did you want the projects that the Trail Committee addressed tonight be considered within that scope?
Well, I think for the purposes of this discussion, I was really focusing just on that portion of the Hens and Chickens trail that's basically been neutralized, so to try and repair that.
So the amendment would include, subject to further review, the final numbers that could be addressed by the committee regarding the bridge and trail work needed to Hen and Chicken Island.
Good. All right. Can I move it second or move by? Quick question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Culver, it is Director. A ballpark, how long to put that together? Like 1 meeting, 2 meetings?
We'll be back in time for next committee meeting in June.
Councillor McLeod.
And just one more point of clarification through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Culver. Is this donation contingent on the what we saw in the report with the replacement of the, I'm loath to call it a gazebo, but the structure that is currently in the Western Harbour? Has this donor stipulated that that must be where their donation goes, or could we put off doing that work and direct it to the much more urgent work and not maybe spend the entire $150,000 that was put in from the capital budget in the budget?
Through you, Chair, the donor is very specific about where the money, his donation would go. It's to that boardwalk section specified, and the caveat, the foundation that he supports and supports him is it's based on environmental education, so it would be access to the Western Harbour for environmental education purposes.
So that money is contingent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Just before we vote, Director Culver, can you just quickly give me a rough estimate of over the years how much this donor has given to the trail system approximately?
Yeah, through you, Chair, my guess is, and I wasn't here for a lot of it, the Heather pathway is was a large part of it. I'm guessing it's in the neighborhood of $600,000-700,000 probably by this point.
Thank you. Whatever, Cameron. Thank you. All right, so we've already voted on the amendment, so on the motion to direct it to council, we have a mover and Councillor Berman seconded. All those in favor? Passed. Excellent. Well, thank you very much to the Trails Committee for coming out. We appreciate all your hard work, and please continue with that. All right, backtracking staff report. 7.1 C 2019-05 video surveillance policy. Clerk Almus.
Certainly through yourself, Chair Madigan, to the committee and the public. I think this is one of those riveting reports you had just mentioned that you were holding off. Certainly this isn't a riveting matter, however it is a requirement under the Information Privacy Commissioner's Office is to maintain a video surveillance policy. So we do have a number of video surveillance cameras and equipment across the municipality, and this is the common policy framework that most municipalities are implying or implementing to be addressed within their municipalities. So I'll go through some of the key components of the policy. Again, it's recognizing that the intent of video surveillance technology is to enhance the safety and well-being of the public, clients and staff, protect town's property and equipment, aiding and identify intruders and persons breaking the law, to monitor events occurring on town property in order to protect our assets and to control access through secured entrances. So the town must comply with privacy protection rules prescribed by the Act with respect to the collection, retention, use and disclosure of recording equipment and technology that is captured. So on page 3 of the report, in areas that are monitored by video surveillance, it is recommended and actually it is a requirement to have posted that it is under surveillance. So the information that needs to be provided is informing the individuals of the legal authority for the collection of personal information, the principal purpose for which that personal information is intended to be used, and the title, business address, and telephone number of someone who can answer questions regarding that collection. So in accordance with a proposed policy that's provided on page 20 of the package, the responsibility for the policy will be designated to myself as the clerk, being responsible for the overall corporate video security surveillance program. And the director of each department is responsible for ensuring the compliance with the established policy and a procedure for the video equipment and access thereto. And then the manager of fleet and facilities, as well as the manager of information technology, are responsible for the life cycle management of authorized video security surveillance systems and the standards thereof. So special considerations before implementing surveillance is understanding the safety concerns, B, understanding the impact on personal privacy, understanding if the town has access to this information directly or if it's a third service provider similar to a transit service, and it must be there must be dedication to the training and compliance to this policy. There's also a prescribed placement for the installation of such equipment. So again, that's to protect personal privacy, ensuring it's only in areas that are appropriate, ensuring that there's no wide capture of areas that are not related to the reasons why the surveillance is being put in place. Again, number 4, the notification for the signage is provided, an example of what will be posted. The access, use, and disclosure. So the access to the video footage is only permitted for lawful, proper, and sufficient reasons and must be authorized by the manager, supervisor on duty. Records are kept of all access recordings, recording the name of the individual accessing the footage, the date and time it was accessed, and the reason why it was accessed. So this is information that we put in over and above the template policy that was provided by the province. We want to make sure that staff are accountable for the reasons for any sort of use, and that the operators that are trained to access that information have a log, and their supervisors are available and privy to that information at all time. So again, this addresses cameras and surveillance systems that are for property protection purposes. We also have recordings on our public transit systems, and the potential use of drones, should we have drones used within the town of Collingwood for any department. The retention would be kept for the purpose which it was recorded. We are requiring that all staff be trained that require use and access to this recording equipment, and we've also added an annual audit and evaluation process. So I will be responsible for ensuring that any information that has been recorded has been retained in accordance with the policy, as well as operators being trained and the review of the logs are being monitored, and operators accessing it only for purposes as noted within the policy.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak with this? Mr. Pretty, please come up, sir. And ask any question you would like in regards to video surveillance.
Good. I've been curious about this. I'd like to know, it's Matt Pretty, East End resident of town. Okay, at the Public Resource Center, I call it the Resource Center now, I don't call it the library. At the Public Resource Center at Simcoe and St. Marie Street, are those cameras directly linked to the police department? On a live feed, are those a live feed to the police department, or are they on hand for the building supervisor to monitor? It's a monitoring process, which is totally understandable. You're dealing with a large number of people in the resource center. It's a great resource center. There's a lot of great things happening there. It's a fantastic building.
Yeah, so tonight we're just talking about the policy and not where it gets directed. Fantastic question, I'm not putting it down.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, but no, I know that, but this sometimes isn't the time and the place, so we'll answer that one. But this is just really
email me
about...
or something? Like, I'd like to know actually.
Yeah, no, I will. So I've heard your question.
Yeah. I'd like
So
to
yeah,
know.
so we'll just, if we're any questions about the policy and the definitions, 100%. And Clerk Almus is more than prepared to answer that question.
Yeah, I guess, well, okay, she's the appropriate person. The sign is great. That's a smart idea to ensure the public's aware. So when you're on property like the bus station, the Public Resource Center, Town Hall, the harbour, the museum, there's other places I'm not aware of, but the expectation for the public is to treat those facilities with respect and care and, you know, in good manner. So that's totally understood. The access.
Yeah, so Matthew, so Clerk Almus is going to answer your question.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So certainly, I would be remiss if I didn't say all the locations where the camera surveillance is provided. So it is at the pool, the fire hall, the bus terminal, Central Park Arena, Harbour, Library Building, Public Works facing the Georgia Triangle Humane Society, and the Town Hall, including the Eddie Bush Arena. And none of our surveillance equipment is a live feed provided to the OPP. And in addition to that, just to be clear, the retention policy is 3 weeks and it's consistent across the province unless that information is needed for some sort of investigation, and then it's until that investigation is concluded or 1 year.
Okay, just to follow up, this is important stuff. When I was in China working as an English teacher, it was amazing to see all the smartphones in activation. It was funny, and I would say to the students, like, may I have your phone, please? It's time for class. And I'm like, no, I need my phone. Like, you can't take it from me. And such a wild thing with the privacy. Thank you for answering that, because as we know, this is becoming an update with regards to society in different ways. And again, back to your sign, I think that's great. With digital technology, I think there needs to be more like warnings on things. This is a Wi-Fi zone, this is a surveyed area, you know, and the buses too, all that jazz. That's a good thing to have postings. I think that's a smart and informed choice for our town and the community. So yeah, it's quite stressful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public wish to come up and ask any questions or give a comment? Seeing none, is there anybody from the committee? Councillor McLeod.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Clerk Almus. Has there been consideration to providing more live streams? In a previous life, I found the camera on Town Hall extremely useful, and knowing what the weather was like when I was elsewhere. And I'm certain that there are many people who will visit our town who also visit that camera and that live stream to find out the same information. Is it snowing in Collingwood? I'll just look at the live stream. Have we considered having more of the cameras available for public consumption?
Clerk Almus.
Certainly through Chair Madigan to Councillor McLeod. I can confirm that part of the policy is to provide a provision in there when consideration is provided for other locations. So it definitely is set up that way, that we intend to most likely go to more cameras as it's warranted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Clerk Almus. Under Section 4 analysis, there's a second last sentence that talks about the main purpose for the video surveillance systems is to provide evidence to law enforcement. And then when I look up to number 2, input from other sources, am I missing has the OPP been asked about the length of time? In other words, is 3 weeks enough in their opinion?
Clerk Almus.
So certainly, so the 3-week policy is what is actually recommended from the province. So originally we had actually only kept recordings for 3 days. And if anything has happened and there's an investigation that's occurring, it's immediate. So we would know if something was, so if there was an injury or there was an accident, that we should have that recording available. And once it's provided to the law enforcement, then it's the retention is, as long as it's the case is open regarding that matter, that it's retained for that length of time. If it's less than a year, we still maintain it for a year. But have they been consulted directly regarding the 3 weeks? Not that I'm aware of.
Councillor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So when it says that its main purpose is to help law enforcement with an investigation, and I'm wondering, maybe I watched too many movies, but is there any chance that maybe they would find in week 4 that they actually had a use for that surveillance footage, and is there any harm to extending the 3 weeks to longer?
Okay, I see where your question is just in case if nothing comes up within the 3 weeks, if something gets spoken about 6 weeks later, is it
taking up? Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it, and it should come to no surprise to you that I'm looking for a longer period of time, but is there a downside to extending that period, or at least checking with them as to whether they're good with that?
What I will endeavor to do,
Yes.
Chair Madigan to Councillor Bergman, is I will have a conversation with the OPP to discuss that. As well too, I believe there was a component that we needed even to have additional recording equipment even to get to 3 weeks, because normally it was recorded after 72 hours or something like that. So if there's additional costs that might be warranted for recordings that longer than that, I will include that in the report as well as my conversation with the OPP.
Great, thank you.
That's good. Any other questions or comments? Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Sarah. It's a similar request, and I'm looking at page 25 of 45 of the report, 6 of 9 of the draft policy, and it talks about 2 situations, one being law enforcement with a request, and then it also says the people whose images have been recorded or retained can make a request under the Freedom of Information Act. And I'm just wondering, is there a limitation period under the Freedom of Information Act under which you make a request? It goes to the same thing, which is the length of keeping the record.
Comments?
Certainly. NFIPA would only be applicable as long as our approved retention policies were abided by. So the public doesn't have unlimited access for years of potential information that could have recorded them. If the municipality has a policy that indicates that whatever that record is, whether it's a recording or a document, that the municipality has the ability to erase or remove or disclose or destroy that record in accordance with whatever policy has been established.
So there's no minimum requirement under the MFIPA Act for an FOI request, under which time it could be, so really by designating it within a policy that overrides any length of time, is that what you're telling me?
If we received an MFIPA request and we had the record available and it was on the second week and the 6th day, we would be required to maintain that record. However, if we received the request and it was the 35th day and it had already been destroyed, there wouldn't be a requirement to provide it, or having kept it.
So the request would have to be made within the policy period.
Correct.
Thank you.
So are you looking for an exploration of that as well?
No, I take what Councillor Berman says. I think it's good to check with the OPP on that 3-week period, because I had the same concern, and I was just wondering under the second category under which a record could be requested. It was a personal information request, and I wanted to know what the timelines for that were.
Perfect, okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Comey?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question through you to Clerk Elmas. Page 27, 6, it references drones. Does the town currently own drones?
No, we do not currently, but if we did, we wanted to make sure that the policy was able to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
And that doesn't cover us droning on it.
That is the time in the live feed where you take a break and just clap for Mayor Saunderson because he attempted to make a funny. Thank you, sir. Welcome back. Jet lag is kicked in.
Got lost in translation.
Translation.
Used the Portuguese for the last 2 weeks.
Okay, seeing none other ones, I actually applaud Councillor Berman for saying this. If we kept recordings of our public domain, I believe absolutely nothing could happen bad at any town-owned property. So I would look forward to seeing that held forever, where we would see who was walking in and out of town-owned property. Thank you. All right, so the staff recommendation is that staff report C 2019-05 be received and the council approve the video surveillance policy attached here to. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Councillor McLeod. All those in favor? That is passed unanimously. 7.2 PRC 2019-09 Pretty River Parkway medians. Councillor, Director Culver, Commodore Culver.
Thank you, Chair. The Pretty River Parkway medians have been a hazard to maintain, for staff to maintain, and the entire time I've been here. As much as we would love to see pretty gardens there, the impact of the sand and salt from the winter, and actually its location even in the summer makes it very, very difficult to maintain. And so this is the ultimate solution that we're unfortunately faced with.
If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak, Mr. Pretty, welcome back.
This is important. Yeah, through you, Chair, to Director Culver, those medians are super dangerous. I'd just like to alert you about one, and I don't know if it's still in existence. It's at the corner of KFC, the LC, Starbucks, and Loblaw. There's grasses growing in a median at that intersection. That's on the way to the Pretty River Highway there. Extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. I think any of those gardens should be pulled out because the rate of traffic going along First Street and people turning to go into LC, to the liquor store, to Starbucks, it is super dangerous. And people crossing at that intersection and or down by, well, it's basically an open road, but yeah, please remove those. I just think it's interfering with pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic at a very high rate of speed as well.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak to this? Seeing none. Any questions or comments from the committee? Excellent. That means it's positive.
Now you missed it.
Councillor McLeod.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Culver. The recommendation is to remove the plantings and fill in the gardens. With what are we planning to fill them?
Through you, Chair, it would be stamped concrete. So it would have a texture to it, but it would be stamped concrete.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Director Culver. Did the $220,000 that was already approved for this, that, I'm assuming a portion of that would be to maybe remove what's already there, or is the plan just to pave right over it?
Through you, Chair, so we'd have to do some removals. There would be, it would be a pretty extensive project, I should say, as the traffic has to be shut down just like we do by a contractor in order to remove the gardens, remove the subsoils, put in proper underlayment for the concrete and pour the concrete. We're also looking to replace the trees that have been, did not survive there, have not been healthy. So there's some cost to that, and as well we'd like to look at a banner treatment for the light post as well.
Thank you. So when I look at the artist's rendition of the finished product, I'm not enamored personally with how plain it looks, so I'm wondering, I can see if it looks like this and we were to look at adding some enhancements to it after those massive 500-pound above ground flower pods or something like that, that would be something we could talk about, I would assume, after this project's done. But are there options, if there was the will of the committee to look at something that was a little more attractive, would that have to be discussed before you'd even begin tearing it up?
So through you, Chair, actually this has been in discussion for about 3 years now, actually 3 or 4 years now. And along the way, we've looked at raising the flower beds, using any vessel possible, concrete, garden beds, metal, whatever we thought would work there. We've researched this everywhere. And unfortunately, so that was actually one of our proposals, but engineering has identified that this is a hazard. If we create more heavy obstacles between the lanes, it violates a standard for MTO. So we would not be entertaining that idea. The gardens, low-lying gardens were possible, but they just don't survive, and they put staff at risk every single time we have to go out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the part about eliminating what's already there, I completely agree with all of that. I just wondered if there was any option, and you'd think, having attended the past 3 years, I'd remember that part, but I don't. So, okay, so it's this way or nothing once you get rid of it.
Through you, Chair, I guess council has the ability to deny the project, in which case we would be, carrying on trying to do what we do and trying to maintain safe environment for our staff, as always. But that's why the report's coming forward, because it's really honestly not.
Okay.
Councillor Berman?
Yep, I can't argue with a project that's been done already, so thank you.
Okay. Councillor Coleman?
Thank you, Chair. So through you to Director Culver, just to clarify, are we saying that other ideas have, going 3 years back, have come before committee or council, and then this was the one that was decided on, or internally this has been researched?
Internally, this has been researched.
Okay, and then to follow up on that, because I would think we're not the only municipality that has medians in the middle of roadways to maintain. So with respect to the priority for safety, I'm sure we're not the only ones who wrestle with this, and I would just tend to think that there might be some xeriscape or grasses, or maybe this committee would like an opportunity to see the other ideas that were discussed internally before making a final decision on paving. Because I agree with Councillor Berman, I don't think it's particularly attractive at all. And I'd like to know how other municipalities deal with the safety and the watering and the maintenance.
So through you, Chair, we can bring back another report that shows all of the different variations over time. It should be noted that the medians in that location are narrower than are typical to other municipalities. The speed of traffic there is higher than related to other traffics, and that's actually a provincial road. So it creates different conditions than you might see in different medians. The medians, for example, to the west along First Street are not the same. We're able to maintain those because of their width, because of their location, the speed of traffic, et cetera. It creates a completely different impact there. But these are unique and specific, and our research throughout the province has shown us that, but we're happy to bring back a report and explain it in detail.
Councillor McLeod?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Culver, I've thought of another question. Have we considered a revenue generation option for these flags that are proposed?
Through your worship, that would be a phase 2 approach. We'd have to take a look at the opportunities, but certainly it's not off the table.
And one more.
Councillor McLeod? Yeah.
How often would these flags be being changed at this point, and how involved is that process? Do you have to shut down the road just like you would be shutting down the road for the weeding?
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
Actually, there are a number of solutions. There are some that don't require any bucket truck. There's others that require a bucket truck. So again, part of the phase B of it would be to evaluate all of those possibilities.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Berman.
Thank you. I'm just thinking that you're talking about, well, I could bring a report back to the committee, but maybe that wouldn't be necessary if, I can only speak for myself, if I just saw the report that was presented before, then if I had any questions, I could bring it up at council next week.
Through you, Chair, sorry if I created a misunderstanding. This is the first report.
No, the previous report on the medians, you said that this was the only option, and it had come forward 3 years ago, and
Sorry again.
Sorry, just for clarity, through Councillor Comey's question, what Director Culver said is it was done internally, and this is what engineering had suggested. Is it?
So through you, Chair, we've been discussing it internally for a number of years. There had been no report that had come before committee or council. This is the first report on the matter.
then I take that back.
Seeing no more, I have a couple. So Director Culver. So I think the key thing to this report and to making everyone understand those medians is safety of our staff. So what happens is people kind of whip up and down the parkway and it puts our staff at risk because they're working the medians. But what you had mentioned, looking at the artist rendition, which is the only rendition in front of me, is you said that there was going to be some cost to replace some trees. So I'm looking at this rendition and I'm not seeing any trees in the median.
So through you, the depending on which view you're looking at, some have trees and some do not. About 40% of the trees have failed because of the environment that they're living in. So,
Okay.
but 60% have survived. So we estimated that we would try again with replacing the 40% that are missing. But there are trees, depending on which view you're looking at, there are trees throughout the median, which stretches from well before Sunset Point all the way up through Sunset Point.
So yes, so for clarity, the true photos, I see the trees, but the artist rendition, I see none.
Correct. That we'd be looking to preserve the trees.
Okay, wonderful. So cool. Okay, so we've had a couple requests from the committee that we would like to see some more options. So I'm assuming that we would like a friendly amendment rather than or a deferral. I'm not a fan of deferral, but if somebody wants to move for a deferral, I will gladly accept it.
Okay.
Councillor Comey's moving to defer this with the understanding that we get some more information back in regards to other options.
Absolutely, we fully support the need to keep our staff safe, but
Yes.
we'd just like to see that internal report and some of those details shared with committee.
Excellent. Do we have a seconder for that? We don't ask questions under clarification. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question about how to proceed would be, if and when it's approved, how long until it would start? So is the deferral, would a deferral affect when the job is going to start?
So through you, Chair, as soon as we receive approval from council, we would move to a procurement process and begin that project. So it's subject to a contractor, et cetera. So I don't exactly know when it would happen.
So if I can ask for your, are you wondering if it's time sensitive as the busy season of tourism starts to, is that what your question?
So through you, Chair, it's time sensitive based on the appearance of the parkway medians, correct, like right now. We
Yes.
have no intention to go in and remediate them at this point based on this report. So if they're okay with the sand and salt being in there for a time being, it can take as long as the council wishes.
I have some clarity. Do we have to speak with the county in regards to this about doing it? Because we'll be arguably shutting down a bit of their road. No?
Through you know, we have local, we're authorized to deal with it locally.
Yes. So do we have a seconder for Councillor Comey's? Councillor Berman seconds it. All those in favor of deferral to get more information back to the committee? All those opposed? Just one. That is passed. Okay, 7.3. PRC 2019-10 condenser tower replacement at the curling club. And if you're just tuning in now, I would like to bring to the attention that Councillor McLeod did let everybody know that she is a member, but she will be taking part in the discussion. And once again, thank you so much for your openness and transparency.
I'm just hoping that if we vote for it, that my draw weight will get better.
Well, that is some sort of interest, but that's all right. Councillor Culver? Well, okay, we've messed it up tonight. Dean has just bought a boat, so I've been calling him Commodore for a while. So we will say Director Culver.
Through you, Chair, I hope this report is self-explanatory, but the condenser, which is effectively a cooling tower on our ice plant at the curling club, suffered some pretty critical failures at the end of the curling season. We were able to patch it up to get through to the end of the curling season, but we have a high interest in getting the repair underway as quickly as possible so that the next season is not interrupted. The cost is estimated at not more than $125,000, and the only other comment I'd like to make is that the system is safe. Even though ammonia is a volatile gas, it's not something that we need to worry about. It's been sequestered.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the public in regards to the condenser tower replacement at the curling club? Seeing none. Any questions or comments from Councillor Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Culver. It was just the Section 4 analysis, the third paragraph opening line, conducting a full procurement process. I just wanted to make sure Rose was cool with this.
So through you, Chair, this would follow our non-standard procurement procedure, and we would be basically moving to get our contractor, who was recently approved for preventative maintenance contract, mobilized quickly to get the repair done.
Thank you.
So just for anybody wondering, can you explain very, very quickly and basically why it would fall under that?
Why non-standard?
Yes, sir.
Through you, essentially, if we go to a procurement process, we need to draft a document which can take up to a month. We need to put it out to market for a period of time. We need to receive those bids. We need to vet those bids, approve somebody, and get them engaged in the contract, whether they're local or on board immediately or not. So that's the problem, is that time, basically we eat up a giant part of the summer. A non-standard allows us to move forward quickly, utilizing a known vendor with a reputation and having recently gone through a procurement process, albeit on a different matter. It allows us to move much more quickly and get the repair done quickly.
And it's very time sensitive, and it is not arguably, it is part of the infrastructure in that building. So it is just like a basic necessity there.
Absolutely, ice plant cannot function without it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the Councillor McLeod?
Just a point of clarification to Director Culver. This condenser does not just run the curling club. It also runs the outdoor ice rink. Yes or no?
Through you, Chair, correct. That's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Comey.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question, forgive me, Councillor McLeod, but through you to Director Culver, Chair, is the curling club contributing to this cost at all?
Director Culver.
Through you, Chair, the infrastructure, building envelope, and all of that are the responsibility of the municipality under our lease agreement. So no, they are not contributing to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the staff recommendation that the staff report PRC 2019-10 be received and council authorize the condenser coil replacement of the Collingwood Curling Club, and that council authorize the use of the capital contingency reserve to cover the cost of this repair to an upset limit of $125,000, and I am going to break the rules. How long do these last? Just before we vote on this.
Through you, Chair, the estimated lifespan of about 25 years for a condenser.
Fantastic. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Mayor Saunderson. All those in favor?
I just have a quick question though. So, picking up then on Chair Madigan's question, how long has this condenser been in place?
Through you, Chair, I think it's about 20 years old.
20 years. So when they put the outdoor rink in, then they just used the existing condenser that was there for the curling club?
I believe so.
Okay.
So, before we go, if you don't want any more clarity on that, I would. So would you like to ask it? Because I think we're going to ask the same question.
Well, I guess the question was going to flow out of that is, do we need a stronger condenser? Because this has been, my understanding was for the outdoor rink, it's been a bit of an issue over the years, and some questions from the curling club as well about the ice quality. So if we are undertaking this work, is the current, given the fact that this condenser was servicing one rink and then two rinks, if we're now replacing it, is there a need to change the capacity of the condenser?
Director Culver.
Through you, Chair, the short answer is no. We have, as of this year, as of late last year, we've engaged a preventative maintenance contractor. That preventative maintenance contractor, the specific reason for us to go out and do that was to lengthen the life of all of our equipment, from compressors all the way through to the front. So my answer would be no, there's no need to upgrade or enlarge. We'll be prescribing the right size condenser for the replacement.
Excellent. So moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Mayor Saunderson. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Departmental updates. Tonight we have three. So we have Clerk Almus, we have Mr. Ridlow, and Deputy Chief Thurman from the Fire Department. So Clerk Almus, would you like to go first?
Certainly have some very brief updates. The first is to let the committee know that all of our local board and advisory committees attended an accountability, code of conduct, and ethics training provided last week by our integrity commissioners, and local board members do have access to our integrity commissioner for those services. And again, that was effective March 1st of this year. And as you're aware, we've had a soft launch of our website. So a formal presentation is going to be provided at council next week. So far we've received nothing but positive feedback, so we're very excited about that. The first quarter communications report will be presented at our next committee meeting. And again, because the focus has been launching our website, so we will have a detailed report from the first quarter of this year for that meeting. And also just to update the committee as well is that the accountability officer job evaluation is being completed, and we anticipate that position will be posted within the next 2 weeks.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Councillor Comey.
Thank you. Quick question through you to Clerk Almus. I'm sorry, did you see the quarter report on communications? So I just missed you saying that. Will it include some reference to our social media?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Well, I would be remiss in saying that I am very pleased that all committee members attended a code of conduct training from the Integrity Commissioner. So moving forward, we will continue in doing things the right way here in the town of Collingwood. I do recall. Next, Mr. Ridlow.
Thank you, Chair. I got a couple of business events updates for everyone. First of all, the Excite Pitch Competition and free workshops are coming up in May. This is a partnership that we have with Georgian College and the Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center. Submissions are due on this Friday, May 10th, with the actual competition happening on May 29th. More information at www.enterprisecenter.ca. The LeaderCast one-day conference is taking place this Friday at Living Water Resort. As many of you may have heard, this is actually the 10th year that it's happening and brings together more than 10 incredible world-recognized speakers simulcasting directly from Atlanta to Collingwood and other main locations around North America. So it's a great chance to get revitalized, inspired about leadership. We also have our local leadership panel that's speaking at lunchtime, and will include the owner and CEO of Living Water Resorts, president and CEO of the hospital, the mayor of Collingwood, and the executive vice president of corporate strategy and talent for Parkbridge. So it's a great chance to take a look at leadership globally, but also how is that being reflected locally. The theme is leading healthy teams. Our upcoming Business in Motion Speaker Series event is on May 30th, and will focus on building our community of the future by attracting leaders of tomorrow. And the key topics are really going to focus on youthful cities. What makes them so successful? Our keynote speaker is Robert Barnard. He's got over 25 years of expertise in youth trends, and actually is the co-creator of the world's largest youth survey that goes around the world. So it's a great chance to see, once again, globally what's going on. How do we bring that down to our local level here? And once again, there'll be a local panel of youth leaders at that. Canadian Water Resources Annual Conference is taking place at Blue Mountains at the end of May. This is Canada's top water technology conference, so some of our local companies are going to be participating there, as well as opening remarks from Mayor Saunderson. And last but not least, the Farmers Market kicks off on Saturday, May 18th, so look forward to seeing everyone out there. That's it for me, thank you.
Any clarification needed from the committee? Councillor Comey.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Director Ridlow. Quick question, actually, when you were speaking, Martin, reminded me to ask, how is the livemorenow.ca site going?
Through you, Chair, it's going extremely well. We're just reviewing the final numbers and should be having those available later on this week. We're seeing strong traffic growth at the main portal. In particular, we're seeing a lot of traffic to the jobs portal of that, which of course profiles a lot of the tech companies and the different company positions that they've got available here. So once again, more details will be coming available over the next few weeks. We continue to drive this pilot forward. And we're actually seeing companies coming to us going, you know what, there's a bit of this tech hub thing happening over in Collingwood. So anecdotally, it seems to be gaining some good traction.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple items. Number one, we started our Alarm for Life program this week, and we're going out and knocking on doors, checking smoke alarms, giving any education information we can. We want to give a big thanks to IT and GIS for their help with their app that I've been promoting. It's going to help us immensely, and we'll probably hit between 25 and 35% more people this year because of it. Second thing, I know Adam's going to speak on it, but it's Emergency Preparedness Week. What we're recommending and hoping is everybody kind of builds an emergency plan. If you go to EMO, Emergency Management Ontario, you can actually register. And what I'm hoping every resident does is they go build the plan on the site and it registers in it. Right now, Collingwood's sitting at number 34 with the population, and by the end of the year, I want to be number one and be the most proactive community around. And that's it.
So what was that website again? So just people.
If you go to EMO, so it's emergencymanagementontario.ca, and you just go under the preparedness planning. And right there you can take the survey and it helps you build your plan. And then it registers you under Collingwood. And then it puts you as a percentage as Collingwood goes. And right now we're number 34 between population of between, I think it's 18 and 25,000. So right now my challenge is to beat Aurelia, Owen Sound, and all the other surrounding communities that are ahead of us at this time. And
any questions? I have one. I think this the Alarm for Life program is just fantastic, and we were lucky enough to get kind of a heads up from another community, so we should throw a shout out to that community, because it's really come at no cost to us, but benefits us tremendously.
Oh, absolutely. Like the program itself is fantastic, and that's why you see fires, large fire losses are down. Just getting out there, getting the awareness, and even just with the new app that Lindsay produced for us, it's where before it would take us 30 minutes for each resident, now we're down to 5 minutes. So we're going to be hitting a lot more homes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and thank you to the staff that did that. Any other questions, comments? Clerk Ellis.
I would be remiss if I didn't note too that it's International Municipal Clerks Week this week as well. So just a shout out there to all my clerk colleagues and my clerks department staff that do an excellent job for the town.
How does that not fall under some sort of love for myself? Well, congratulations for your week. I think your job is extended 52 weeks of the year, so thank you very much for keeping us on track and making sure that all members of this council and committee members are fully trained finally. So, any public delegations tonight? Seeing none, other business. Oh, Matthew Pretty, come on up for 5 minutes and speak on anything that you would like to in regards to this committee.
I'll keep this brief. During the budget updates in February and March, there was discussion in the newspaper about monies received through the Collis Power sale. I know there's still unfolding about, that sale and the past sale that had happened. I wanted to know from Director Culver, what's the status of the harbour master plan in relation to the whole plan that was designed? How many years will it take for the grain elevator to become renovated with regards to engineering and that as a potential site, like a tourist attraction? Will we see that in 5 years? That's my question.
Director Culver, it should be a very easy question to answer.
Through you, Chair, the waterfront master plan was actually fairly silent on the grain elevators. The grain elevators are a completely different project from the master plan, and this council is committed to moving forward with some decision making. We have to help them by developing some framework for that.
Okay, so I could guess that this is not a top priority for the town at this time. There's other things to do in relation to closer to town.
I wouldn't say it's not a top priority, but it wasn't identified at the time, and that's why I said Director Culver, I'm not going to make him a councillor, that I knew the answer, so it was a fairly easy question to answer, that it hadn't been looked at, but we'll definitely take your question down.
Yeah, just curious.
It's
a focal point. I know that on the Bay magazine, like, let's demolish the grain elevator. Well, that is the silliest idea I've ever heard, and I don't want to see that. So let's keep it on the radar and let's keep it standing.
Excellent. So Clerk Alves will speak to it very quickly.
Okay.
I'm gonna, through the chair, very briefly note that this is part of our presentation next week with the launch of our new website, because we have an engaged component that speaks to the use of asset proceeds, and the terminals is one of them, so.
Okay,
Thank you. Other business. Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was reading the minutes today, and I noticed under the Trails Committee, they were talking about roundabouts, talking about pedestrian and cyclist friendliness. So it's good to see that's on the radar. But it also reminded me, and when we were having our discussion about the medians, when you, having just returned from Europe, where there are many roundabouts, and most of them sport a piece of public art or a heritage tribute. I was wondering, and I don't know if I direct this to Director Culver or who I would be directing this to, but I know we have a public art policy, and I'm wondering if we are looking at pursuing any public art installation roundabouts in town.
Director Culver.
Through you, Chair, that's not specifically on our radar, but certainly with council's direction, we can take a look.
Mayor Saunderson. I'm assuming that you took lots of photos so you could bring some examples.
Yes, certainly.
Cool.
We can do that, but leave it with me. I might bring it up under the business council meeting. I don't want to burden staff with a report, and I think I made a dictate that I have to talk to staff first before I do that, so I will do that.
Thank you, sir. And welcome home for the people that didn't know. I hope you enjoyed your last vacation in the next 3 years, because you're not gonna plan another one on us.
Well,
No,
we'll
you're
see.
not.
I'm not making any commitments.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Any other business? Councillor Comey.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. You touched on it at the beginning, and I just want to confirm here at closing that we know football soccer season has started. So I just want to confirm at our next meeting, which I believe is June the 3rd, we'll get that staff report on Fisher Field.
Director Culver.
Through you, Chair, I wasn't looking at a report, but I'm prepared to do a staff update at whichever meeting is required. I can provide some information now if interested.
Now would be good, if Councillor Comey would like that.
We can update, but I think we'd ask for like sort of a full report of the accounting. There were some specific details in that ask at last council meeting, but I'll certainly take an update.
Go ahead, sir, please.
So currently, regarding the Fisher Field field house, we are working with an architect. We've done a public consultation, a stakeholder consultation, in order to get ideas from the Soccer Association as well as any other interested stakeholders in how and what the field house should contain. We've received a few preliminary designs from the architect. We've sent them back with corrections, and we'll be looking towards probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks getting closer to our final design, after which we'll be able to do some cost estimates and look at coming to council with budget.
Excellent. So what I'm hearing there is it's in the design stage still, and we can't expedite that process because we're not the ones doing the design work. So we're waiting for, okay. Councillor Comey, is that?
Yeah, and then just to clarify at our last council meeting, I think we'd asked for, which was fine to be a presentation. I think it morphed into a staff report with some discussion because we were going to provide this committee and council with some background on the
Yes.
spending to date, this role of the stakeholders, the expected final cost. So, and I know Director Culver's looking to go out to tender, I think by August, break ground this year. So my guesstimate that would be June the 3rd would be ideal to get that.
Well, I believe that I heard Director Culver say that he was happy to give an update now, but he's just waiting. But CAO admin?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Madigan. Just a word of caution. We've got, in the last several council and committee meetings, a number of reports being requested. So I think our department heads will likely go through a prioritization process before they make commitment to specific dates, because there are a number of reports, 2 coming out of this meeting that has been requested of staff.
Okay, so just for time allocation, you're just asking for a bit of lean.
Well, for time and also workload.
Yes, sir, yes.
Oh, completely respect that. So the reason I'm following up is it was voted on at last council meeting. We don't meet again until the 3rd of June. I know that there's a timeline to get this out to RFP. So as long as we're adhering to the schedule, we're gonna need some framework to work within.
So Director Culver, I'm looking at your eyes, thinking that we will be able to adhere to the schedule to make.
So through you, Chair, this is one of the reasons why I hesitate when we have these preliminary discussions about projects like this, that there is, the schedule is not always ours to determine. We have to work with what the architect allows. There may be reiterations repeatedly. We have to do analysis on the ground. We may find we have to do more analysis. So the timeline that was discussed was based on our absolute best target, but I'm doing the best I can to try and return a proper design that respects all of the inputs and comes with a cost-effective solution for the community. I would love to say I'll have something for June. At this point, I don't know that I will have something design-wise by June, and it may be July.
Okay, well, we don't want to rush perfection, and I like that you use that, and we want to make sure that the clubhouse, the field house is to the best that it can possibly be. So as long as
I think we've got confused. I'm not asking for the design. I'm just asking for the same report we asked for at last council.
okay, wonderful. All right. So an adjournment. Who will move that? Councillor McLeod. All those in favor? Thank you very much for those who tuned in at home, and for the people that actually came out tonight. Thank you for all the staff and the committee members for being here. We really appreciate it. Have a great night.